operationally, with so many fingers in so many pies, like what are non-negotiables? What are things like, obviously lifting is undoubtedly a big part of this process, as far as like, I don't know what the right term would be, like anchoring you or grounding you, but like what are things that, in dealing in higher stress environments where, as you sort of indicated, like the highs can be really high, the lows can be really low. What are things that you do? And it doesn't even have to be a behaviors thing, but it's like, how do you stay level at this level?
Yeah, good question. I'm very much a creature of habit. I'm a very emotionally driven person. And in order for me to feel control in my life, weightlifting is that. I make no hiding of the fact that, I've not been able to do the sport that I love for the last 7 years. But weightlifting has always been something that has given me so much more than the ability to compete. It gives me a sense of stability in my life. And if I'm training, then I feel like I'm in control. No matter how mad the tornado is swirling around me, if I'm training and I've had that sensation that I get from training, everything's going to be okay. That is one constant that I need in my life for stability. I find it very hard to switch off, like most business owners do. So I'm a creature of habit when it comes to routine. I like to do the same things in the morning when I wake up. I like to go for a walk first thing. Little things for me like that give me a sense of stability is really important. And we are, as humans, we thrive on that routine and stability. And I'm no different in that respect. And as long as those things are in play, the training, the simple routines in the morning in terms of what works for me, and I don't have a crazy fucking morning routine. I don't get up and meditate and read a book for fucking 12 like time. I just have simplicity in those first few moments and my training. And as long as those two things are continuums, then the day-to-day, I guess, is fine. And I like a little decompress on a Friday night as well.
I don't even think I have to ask what that means, but what happens when things go wrong? Like, I've sustained some pretty gnarly injuries from lifting weights, and that was taken away. Like, what would you do, or what have you done if one or two of those pieces, like how reliant are you on those tools? Like, worst case, you walk outside and get hit by a bus and you can't snatch tomorrow. Like, how do you, like, what are the internal coping mechanisms outside of like the simplicity of a routine? Because how sturdy is that shelter between you and the tornado?
Yeah. Well, I think relating it back to injury, it's the difference between a chronic injury or an acute injury. At the end of the day, it's almost worse when something is slowly over time, your routine is being affected in the long run. So what I mean is, if my bedtime or my wake up time fluctuates for an hour and it gets later and later, over time, that's going to have a negative effect. If, for example, my diet slips and I start eating shit and shit over time, I'm going to see that change, and that's going to affect me. Going out and all of a sudden getting hit by a bus is like an acute change that's going to make a significant impact in that given moment. But I remind myself that there's always a path back to where you came from, because you leave the breadcrumbs to get there. And that's the thing for me, in like that reflective state that I feel that you need every 2 to 3 weeks, where you go like, okay, how's that last couple of weeks gone? What was good? What was bad? Reflecting on that allows you to keep an eye on where you've come from. And by doing that, there's always that path back. And, if I go and get hit by a bus tomorrow and I can't snatch the rest of my life, there is still going to be a path back to health again beyond that. I find passion in not through running, but through doing CrossFit now. I like to get a sweat on and do that. There's always something about exercise. I've started playing paddle. I'm enjoying playing paddle, which is Americans pickleball. You have to have things outside of that one sport that you can lean into as well. I think just on that as well, Jordan, like weightlifting is a big part of my life, but it doesn't define who I am. And it took me a long time after the Olympics to realize that, as a lot of athletes do. You know, it's a momentary part in my existence, that whole Olympic thing.
If you were to start it all over now, and maybe, hold on, I want to backpedal a little bit. Did you ever think you'd get to the position you're in business wise? Like starting off where you're like, okay, I'm going to get to this level of scale. That's the goal.
That was always my intention. I think I always had that intention. I was always that driven to be able to be as good as I can be and grow as big as I can. I'd like anyone, would like to be further down the road than I am right now. If I was to go back to the start again, I wouldn't change anything, because the lessons that you learn are the most enjoyable bit, you know, and it takes people years and years to realize that ultimately, like, everything that I've experienced or gone through up to this point was part of my path and part of my journey, good or bad, you know? So, am I where I expect to be? Yes. And I want to continue to grow, but I'm also very mindful of the fact not to lose sight of that I keep looking into the distance, that pot of gold is going to continue to move. And my biggest fear is ultimately to never find contentment in where I'm at, you know, as a lot of aspirational people or ambitious people find.
Were you, when you started this, were you as introspective as you are now? Like, I guess the question I'm trying to parse out is, what has come further from the starting point? The potential scale and the realized scale of the business, or the potential growth and realized scale of you as an owner? What is farther from the initial starting of like, okay, I do this for a living now?
My awareness, probably more than anything, you know. But I guess that's come only in the last couple of years, and I don't really know what stemmed that. But I think it was at the point where, like I said, growth gets to a point, and then, like I said, there's no further fulfillment from that extra bit. You stop getting enjoyment from a sports car or a bigger house or a new watch. Like, these things stop giving you what you feel is going to be that pleasure. You don't get pleasured by those things so much, and you start to have this, I guess, moment where your pleasure is being given to you from far simpler things. A day when there's no bad things to go on. A day when you get like a day without email and to not look at your emails. A day to just, you know, relax. And I think it's at that point where that transition happened for me.
And that really carries a lot of weight, knowing a little bit about your shoe collection. So the fact that, you know, stuff, and, you know, I really wish you were a size 12 US, because if I knew that, like, hey, you don't need these material things, dog. Like, we've transcended. I want those Off-White 5s. Send them over. You transcendent motherfucker. Like, I really wish that you could have just had the same size foot as me, because that would have been really great on the timing. If just kind of you turn into a monk, you know, I'll take a Submariner. I'm just saying, like, you know, if you want to just knock, I'm your guy.
But I've been there and I've done it. I've stepped in that. I've been in those shoes when I needed a new pair of shoes every day to get hit. You know, I'd been through that myself, and like, everyone has to go through that. Like, don't get me wrong, I still get excited about watches, cars, and as soon as I get a car, I'm like, oh, I'm looking at my next one. You know what I mean? It's like, that doesn't change, because when you're an ambitious person, I think you'll always strive for that. But I think it's understanding that gives you pleasure, not happiness, that's important. And that's probably one of the best lessons my friend James Smith taught me.
What does a bucket list look like for you?
A bucket list, in terms of things that I haven't done that I want to do, it's a really interesting question, because I'm trying to still work that out myself at the moment in terms of where I want to be and what I want from life in in that longer form state. But I think above anything else, like what's more important to me, anything, is to be like truly happy in my day to day and have that routine. Like I don't think that there's things that I haven't done that haven't given me that. There has been. Is there things out there that will continue to give me that? Probably. But I think above anything else, Jordan, probably experience is something that I continue to long for, experiencing something that I haven't previously experienced. I'm turning 30 in just over 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks. I'm going shark cage diving with great whites. I'm like, that's something I've never fucking done before. I want to do that. So I guess experience.
The fact that you're just turning 30 is like good for you. Because you got a baby face. It's hard to tell. Because like you're a living weightlifter, so you don't really stress out about shit because you only got to do 4 reps a week or whatever the fuck you guys do. It's bullshit. I look like the after photo, dog. Like I look like what Sonny would be next to on a cigarette package. like don't smoke. Don't. Oh man, good for you. Do you ever see a point where this forward-thinking behavior, this sort of, to put a term on it, like this pursuit of happiness, takes you out of fitness?
No, I think, like I said, for the same reasons that we just spoke about a moment ago, I need that continuum for stability in my life. And, I think without fitness, I won't be able to do that from a personal pursuit. I've always dreamed of, I feel like I would make someone else a shitload of money. And I've always like dreamt of being, I don't want to be a business coach, but I would like to spend time working for someone else with someone else's financial capital to make crazy things happen and do cool shit.